TikTok is full of mortgage hacks, but not all of them are good. In fact, some of the ones going viral right now could cost you thousands of dollars if you followed them. So today, I'm gonna react to some of the craziest mortgage TikToks out there, show you exactly what's wrong, and then explain what you should actually do instead. Let's dive in.
But it's rewarding. And it's rewarding because customers are happy and you're saving them half the time with whatever it is that they're encountering, right? I love this job. And I've grown to love it more and more as we spend more time in it. And I mean, you and me, we've got a beautiful relationship now where, you know, we're inviting each other to a lot of things, right? So I built a lot of friendships in this industry and I love that. I think that's been, because I was an introvert. I'm a huge introvert before this whole industry and I kept to myself. And now I have to learn to speak to people and, you know, prospect, door knocking. These aren't things that make you feel very comfortable. But the moment you start feeling uncomfortable and you're doing something, that's when you know you're doing something right.
So this creator is talking about how they're in the mortgage industry and they've really had to become an extrovert. They were an introvert and they've had to get much more extroverted to be successful. They also said that when they started, they thought it was just going to be like a 9 to 5, but they find themselves working on the weekends and nights. And, you know, I agree with this advice. You really have to be extroverted to be successful in the mortgage industry. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but it's all about communication. And at the end of the day, you're in sales. So actually being able to communicate and go out there and find business is an important part of being successful. As far as the timeline and the time that you have to work in mortgage, I agree with that as well. It's not just a 9 to 5. You can't do this business and just be available during business hours. A lot of the action here happens after business hours when people aren't working. It happens on the weekends when people are out negotiating, looking at homes, that sort of thing. So you really have to have the wherewithal to work when you need to work based on your clients, and don't just treat it like a 9 to 5 or it'll pay you like a hobby. So this video is all about a mortgage tip to pay off your mortgage early. And what it says is if you make 1 extra payment a year on your mortgage, you're gonna take 7 years off, 2 extra payments, 14 years, and 3 extra payments, 21 years. But this isn't realistic for the average Joe. This is just generic advice. We don't know what your balance is, what's your interest rate, how many years do you have left on your mortgage. All these things are important to understand what the real outcome, what the real mathematics are gonna be behind paying extra to pay off a mortgage faster. So while I agree that putting some extra money can pay it off quicker, you need to do the numbers for you in your particular situation. Again, what's your rate? How much time do you have left? What's your balance on your mortgage? And then based on that, you can understand and get an accurate outcome of making those extra payments. On some mortgage balances, making an extra payment a year might save you more than 7 years. On others, it might save you less. So understand what it's going to be for your situation before you take this advice.
The month in which you buy it is not the first mortgage payment you'll make. So if you're buying the home in January, you'll usually make your first mortgage payment in March. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but if you can make that first payment in February and you actually take out whatever your mortgage payment would be and you actually allocate that and send it to the bank and say, apply that towards my principal, at that point, you're then going to be paying an additional 1 extra mortgage payment in that first year very easily, right? Because essentially you're moving into the home and you're just paying a mortgage payment. But without realizing it, by making that extra first payment, you're actually going to be taking about 6 months to a year off of the overall term of the loan, and you'll be saving just over $10,000 in interest, right? So it's a really easy tweak. You don't have to think about it, but you're going to be saving.
So what this creator is talking about is the fact that when you close on a home early in the month, you're going to have basically 2 months before that first mortgage payment's going to be made. So if you already have the money budgeted, you should go ahead and pay that first mortgage payment early, which is then going to go directly to principal and save you 6 to 12 months off the term of your loan. And while the math behind that does make sense and it can be realistic, most buyers that I know, especially first-time buyers, don't have the extra money in their budget to be able to make that extra payment on the mortgage, especially right away after they just put money down and paid closing costs on buying a home. So what's normally a better idea is to take that first month mortgage payment, instead of paying it early, put that in a side account, put that in a savings, put that in investment, somewhere that it can be accessible and available to you for an emergency, right? Because when you buy a new home, there's a lot of expenses that you're going to have, and a lot of people end up getting into debt or having to borrow money from somewhere. But if you have that money set aside, instead of putting it on the mortgage, you put it aside for you, then you'll find that most of the time that's going to be a better idea, and that's actually going to save you far more than putting it on the mortgage.
Buyers are told that it's best to close at the end of the month, but there are benefits to closing at the beginning of the month. Let's break it down. So let's say you're closing on a $300,000 loan at a 6.5% interest rate, and you close on September 29th. You're going to pay 1 day of interest, which would be about $53. First payment would be due November 1st. But if you close at the beginning of a month, let's say October 1st, you'd pay about $1,590 in interest. But hold up, you get to skip 2 months until you make a mortgage payment. Your payment wouldn't be due until December 1st. So you just need to decide, do I want to bring in less to closing, or do I need more time to make my payment? Share this with someone who's buying a home.
This video is about the advantages of closing early in the month. See, most real estate agents and mortgage lenders tell you to close late in the month, like the 29th, 30th, 31st, so that you'll have a minimal amount of prepaid interest. You only have a couple days that will be collected at closing. That's going to lower your closing costs. But as the creator said, then your first mortgage payment is going to be due just over 30 days. However, if you close early in the month, you're going to pay more prepaid interest, but then you're going to have almost 2 months before that first payment's going to be due. So you need to figure out, what's your priority. Are you tight on cash to close? Do you need more extra time to make that first mortgage payment? And then strategize on this with your lender and realtor so you can figure out, does it make more sense to close earlier in the month with 2 months till the first mortgage payment? Or does it make sense to close later in the month, have a little less cash to close, but then the first mortgage payment's due a bit sooner? Everybody's situation is going to be different. And for some people, closing earlier in the month may not be the right move, but the creator acts like it's one size fits all. So I don't agree with that part, but from a mathematical standpoint, it can be sound. Just discuss it with your lender and realtor.
House in 2025, this is something you need to know. Because if you don't, your loan officer might trick you into thinking that you're saving money with a lower rate when in reality, you're spending thousands of dollars for it. Trust me, as a top 1% loan officer that's licensed in 13 states, people send me examples of this every single day. So let me show you what I mean. Whenever you're getting a mortgage on a house, your loan officer should always offer you their best rate without points, which means the rate they can give you without you having additional closing costs. But you do have the option to buy down your rate. The only thing is, it makes no sense in this current market. But the majority of analysts expect mortgage rates to go down in the next 1 to 2 years, probably sooner. Because let's say you do end up buying down your interest rate, like this example right here. Let's say it costs 1 point or $4,000 on a $400,000 loan to buy down your interest rate by 0.25%. Sure, you're gonna save $65 per month, but you did pay $4,000 up front for that. So you would need to save $65 per month for 61 months, that's over 5 years, just to pay back the upfront cost of $4,000 to get that lower rate. And if you end up refinancing any time before then, you basically threw money in the garbage. But this is just an example. You have to always look at the cost-benefit analysis. What is the cost of the points divided by the monthly savings? If the break-even point is less than 2 years, then I think it might not be such a bad idea. Because even though rates will eventually go down, we don't know if it's going to be next month or next year. This is probably the most complicated thing for buyers to understand. So if you need my help to...
So this creator is talking about the misinformation out there on rate buy downs and buying points. A lot of lenders will just lock in your interest rate and give it to you, and they won't give you options. And a lot of time you'll end up paying 1 or 2 points and they didn't even explain it to you. So what the creator is saying, that I totally agree with, is that you need to know what the rate is with no points. That's your baseline. Then you can look at how much does it cost to buy the rate down 1/4 point or 1/2 point. And then you need to do what's called a break-even analysis, where you divide the amount of monthly savings by the cost in order to get that savings or buy down that rate. And you figure out what is the break-even point. Now, in this market where we've had elevated rates for a bit, you don't want to be in a position where you're buying the rate down with a 2, 3, 4 year break-even point. Most of my clients that are doing this, we're recommending they only do a buy down if they have less than a 1 year break-even, because of the fact that we expect mortgage rates to come down in the next year or two, and we want to make sure that you have the ability to refinance without issue. So make sure that you're not just taking the rate that's given to you by your lender, but you're actually discussing the whole rate sheet, the different options that you have. You don't want to be caught off guard paying 1, 2, or more points without even knowing what the break even is.
You pay off a 30-year mortgage in 15 years, and this is something the bank won't tell you because they make more money off you. So you take your principal and interest that you pay every month, you divide that by 6, then you make that payment on the 15th of every month, but you gotta make sure that they apply it towards your principal. And that's how you pay a 30-year mortgage in 15 years. If you want more information, follow me on.
So this is just another take on the old biweekly payment strategy. And the biweekly payment strategy is all about paying one extra payment per year, which equates to paying your mortgage biweekly. If you pay it biweekly, you'll pay 26 times during the year instead of 24, which equates to one additional mortgage payment per year going to principal. But this is just another take on it. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. There's a lot of different ways that mathematically you can figure out how much to send. But in a nutshell, you want to take your total principal and interest payment, you want to divide that over 12 months, and then you want to make that extra payment bi-weekly, okay? So the easiest way to figure it out is just to actually pay one extra payment per year. So however you have to do that, you don't have to do it every 2 weeks. You don't have to send it in every other month or any of that. You could literally do this once a year. Just send one extra payment per year and accomplish the exact same thing. So don't let the TikTok advice confuse you. This is just the same old bi-weekly mortgage payment in a different close or a different presentation.
Most people don't know about. It's called the 2% rule. So if you pay an extra 2% on your mortgage payment every month, you will cut off 12 to 14 years off the length of your mortgage. Here's an example. If you have a 30-year loan and your payment is $2,000 a month, if in year 2 you paid $2,040 a month, and in year 3 you paid $2,080.80 a month, so you're adding 2% to your payment each year, you will save thousands of dollars and cut 12 to 14 years of payments off your mortgage.
Just another take on the extra principal or the biweekly payment hack. So most people know that if you put extra principal on the mortgage each month, you're gonna pay it off sooner. So all these TikTok videos just keep talking about different ways to figure out how much extra to send. But everybody's budget is different. You can't say just send an extra 2% a year or 2% a month. You need to look at your budget and your particular situation. The big thing we need to be looking at here though is paying extra on your mortgage even the best decision? It might be better, and in most cases it's better to be putting that money in a retirement fund like 401k, IRA, or a taxable investment account. And the reason why is because even if you have a higher rate mortgage, you're gonna get a better return by investing the money versus the guarantee that you're gonna get by paying off the mortgage early. So again, look at your financial situation, your budget, and discuss it with a financial advisor to see if you should be paying extra on your mortgage. If you should be, then how much? That's gonna be based on your personal situation and how much money you have left in your budget each month.
Big banks don't want you to know this trick because it could cost them over $100,000 in interest payments from you. If you have a 30-year fixed mortgage, grab your statement now, find your principal and interest payment, ignore the taxes, insurance, and PMI. Here's the magic formula. Take that P&I number and divide it by 5. Let's say your principal and interest is $1,800 per month. Divide by 5, that's just $360. Now, here's what you do. Make that extra $360 as an extra principal only payment every month. Make sure it's marked principal only or the bank might apply it wrong. This one simple move cuts 10 years off your mortgage without refinancing, without qualifying again, without paying closing costs. On a $300,000 loan, this saves you approximately $133,000 in interest over the life of the loan. Most loan officers will never tell you about this because they only make money when you refinance with them, not when you pay off early for free.
So this creator is actually going into the detail on making a bi-weekly payment on your mortgage. And by making that bi-weekly payment, paying 26 times per year versus 24 times, you're actually going to be in a position where you're going to shave a significant amount of money off the mortgage principal and ultimately off the amount of time that you have to pay that mortgage off. So with that said, does it even make sense for you to be paying extra on your mortgage? I see a lot of people implement this advice because it sounds good and they see it online, yet they're sitting on credit card debt. They're sitting on personal loan. They have other accounts that should be funded that aren't, like 401k, IRA, or taxable investment. And all that stuff needs to be in order before you pay extra on your mortgage. The average S&P return over the last 100 years is north of 9%. So if your mortgage is less than 9%, you should actually not be paying the mortgage off. You should be putting the money towards retirement and investments, okay? So rather than take the one-size-fits-all advice, talk to an advisor, understand your situation, and then decide if it makes sense for you to pay bi-weekly or extra on your mortgage, or if it makes more sense for you to take that money and put it towards somewhere where it can actually build wealth for you even better.
Banks don't want you to know this trick because it saves you money and not them. If you're in a 30-year mortgage, check your statement. Find your principal and interest amount, not taxes, not insurance, not PMI. Now, divide that number by 6. Take the smaller amount, make an extra principal only payment on the 15th of every month. Let's say that your P&I, your principal and interest, is $1,704. Divide that by 6, that's $284. Do this monthly and you'll turn your 30-year into a 15-year mortgage without having to refinance. Most lenders won't tell you this because it doesn't make them any money unless you refinance with them. But this is just smart math that chips away at your balance fast. Follow for more mortgage hacks.
So this creator is talking again about an extra principal payment on your mortgage. They go to an example of how you can pay a 30-year mortgage off in 15 years by paying all this extra to principal. Most people know that if you pay extra on principal, you're gonna pay the loan off quicker, you're gonna save interest, but the real question isn't if it works or how much should you be paying, but should you even be paying your mortgage off quicker? For most people, the answer is no, you shouldn't be paying extra on your mortgage. You should be paying extra into other areas like investments, 401k, IRAs, retirement, other investment opportunities. But putting extra money on your mortgage, especially if you're younger, is absolutely the worst thing you could do. In many cases, it's like committing financial suicide. So what you really want to do is take this advice in context, talk to your financial planner, your advisor, about this and how it fits into your financial plan. Are you maxing out your retirement funds? Are you putting money in other investments? If the answer to either of those is no, then you shouldn't be paying off your mortgage early. But if you are in a good place with other investments and retirement, then we can talk about putting extra on principal. Then the question is how much? That's going to be based on your budget and your personal situation. For one person, it might be an extra $200 a month. For someone else, it might be an extra $2,000 a month. So don't take the TikTok advice as the gospel for your situation and look at it on a personal level to see what's going to be best for you.
Of 2050 because of this hack from TikTok. Here's how. Split your monthly mortgage into 2 bi-weekly payments. You're not spending additional money per month, just splitting it in half and making it bi-weekly payments versus just one. I guess how it works is there's additional payments that way during the year. So it's like taking off that amount each year, which over time can accumulate so much less time overall on your loan. So instead of originally my loan was $20.50, because of this hack, I will have it paid off by 2039. An 11-year difference. I wish I knew this when we bought our home like 5 years ago because it probably would have been even less time. But why is nobody telling us this? Why is this something that I found out through TikTok? Why are mortgages not explaining this to you when you go and you sign your mortgage for 30 plus years? That is such a drastic change in time. I'm stunned.
So this is just the same old bi-weekly payment strategy that we've heard over and over again. But this creator does talk about it in the context of being lied to, that she wasn't even aware of it. So it's something that I always try to talk to my clients about, is different ways they can pay off their mortgage early. But the real fact is we need to step back, zoom out, and look at, should you be paying off your mortgage early? Most people understand that paying extra is going to save time and money, but does it make sense for you to be doing that? And more often than not, I see people trying to accelerate their mortgage payoff, but yet they're sitting on credit card debt or other debt. Maybe they're not maxing out their retirement funds or investment accounts. And if that's you, then you shouldn't be paying off your mortgage early. You really need to step back and talk to a financial advisor or planner to see how the mortgage payoff is going to fit into your retirement picture. Even if you're in your 20s or 30s, I know it sounds crazy, but paying off your mortgage early could actually set you back when it comes to retirement if you're sacrificing other investments and other vehicles that are going to be more important in retirement. So don't take this advice as one size fits all because everybody's situation is different. Look at your scenario, your wealth building profile, and your timeline, and then see not only should you pay off your mortgage early, but if yes, how much should you be paying extra to principal each month?
Like putting 10, 12, or 15% down in hopes of reducing your monthly payment. Instead, put the minimum amount down to reduce your interest rate and then make a lump sum payment to your mortgage company. Let me explain this. Anytime you have mortgage insurance, this is when you're putting less than 20% down. You actually get a lower interest rate as you reduce your down payment amount. But most people want a lower payment, right? Here's how you get a lower payment and a lower interest rate. Secure your low interest rate by putting the minimum amount down, 5% or 3% if you're a first-time home buyer. Now, You want to take what you were planning on putting down and apply that to the mortgage balance in the first 90 days after closing on the home. Instead of putting 15% down on a $500,000 mortgage, that's $75,000. Put 3% down or $15,000. You'll take that $60,000 difference and make a lump sum payment to the bank. They will then recast your loan, meaning they will reduce the mortgage balance and reduce the payment. By doing this, you get the best interest rate possible and get a payment that's even lower than if you put the larger down payment up front.
So this creator is talking about the scenario where you can get a lower interest rate by putting a lower down payment. So to do that and then put a bigger down payment and a lump sum after closing to then lower and recast the payment. But there's a lot of dangerous things about this. First of all, it's not one size fits all. And depending on your credit score and the exact amount of the home and down payment, putting a lower amount down may not get you a better down payment. If you're using a loan like FHA or VA, putting more down will not give you a better interest rate. So you need to make sure to discuss this with your mortgage advisor. You need to understand if this is going to work for you or not, and know what is my rate going to be if I put down 3 or 5% versus what is my rate going to be if I put down the 15 or 20% that you were planning on. This only works if you have a large down payment, like 10 to 20% or more down. If you're somebody that's only got 3 to 5%, then you don't have this option to do. The other thing is that everybody's situation is different, and you need to ensure that the lender that you're set up with allows a recast. Some lenders don't allow you to recast the loan after closing. So if you go through this whole strategy and then after closing you try to recast the loan and get told no, now you're stuck with the higher payment until you refinance. And that's exactly the opposite of what this strategy is all about. So while it could be advice that makes sense, it's not one size fits all, and you can't treat it like that. So make sure that you look at your particulars, your scenario with your advisor, so that you don't get stuck in a mess trying to do this and then not able to proceed.
So your £300,000 mortgage will cost you around £1,200 a month for the next 30 years. Oh right, okay. Watch this mortgage hack. I'd like to pay back £1,300 a month, please. Okay, we can allow that with this mortgage. And I specifically want it to come off the mortgage principal loan, not the interest. And why would you want to do that? Because overpaying the principal mortgage loan will save me thousands of pounds in interest and reduce my mortgage quicker. Okay, and how do you know this? I follow Glenn Russell Property on TikTok.
So this video is all about putting extra principal. He's setting up an automatic payment with an extra $100 a month going to principal. And anybody could do this. You could do this yourself. It's a really simple strategy, but the real question is, should you be paying extra principal on your mortgage? And if you should, how much should you be sending? So I really do like the smaller amounts, $50, $100, $200 a month, because it doesn't have a big disruption in your monthly budget. But what you really need to understand is, like, should you be doing it or not? So talk to an advisor and fit this into your financial plan. Are you investing money in your 401k, in your IRA, in your retirement plan? Are you putting money in taxable investments like brokerage accounts or other places? Are you saving up for another real estate investment? All of these questions have to be answered before you can actually put extra money on principal of your mortgage in good faith and do it the right way. What we find a lot of the time is it doesn't make sense to pay any extra to principal, even $100, because you're not maxing out these other wealth building tools like retirement funds and taxable brokerage. Now, once you have all that set, if you want to set up an extra $100, couple hundred a month on your principal mortgage payment, hey, feel free, but don't do it until you know it fits into your overall financial plan.
And down when you're buying a home, you should put 5% down instead. And this is why. When you put less than 20% down using a conventional mortgage, you're actually going to save money on the cost of the interest rate that you're going to receive. So if you want the lowest rate, 20% is not the way to get there. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to speak to your lender beforehand and make sure that the mortgage you're receiving is eligible for a recast. A recast means that you can make a lump sum payment toward the principal balance on the mortgage after you close at any time, and that's going to reduce the balance, the payment, and eliminate the mortgage insurance that you're having to pay for putting less than 20% down. So here's the plan. You put down 5, 10, or 15%. Immediately after closing, you put down the difference of what would have taken you to the original 20% you wanted to put down, lowers the balance, lowers the payment, gets rid of the mortgage insurance, and allows you to keep that lower interest rate for all 30 years of that mortgage.
So this is the take of putting a low down payment to get a low rate and then doing a recast after closing and getting back or putting down all the original money to get you 20% down or more. Then you get the lower payment and the lower rate. But again, this isn't one size fits all. I do like that the creator said it has to be a conventional loan and that it also has to be a lender that allows a recast, because other videos I've seen on this, they don't talk about that and people get caught off guard. But if you're in a position where you have 20% down, then run the numbers with your advisor to see what would my interest rate be if I put only 5 or 10% down versus 20. See if it's worth it to actually put the lower amount down and then recast the loan after the closing. It's not one size fits all, and that's the issue I have with all these, is you got to look at your scenario. Should you be putting 20% or more down, or should you be using that money for something else? Maybe it's paying off debt, maybe it's another investment or another property. So it's really important that you take this advice and apply it to your personal situation to make sure that it's the best advice for you.
I want you to know before you get your mortgage. This is what your mortgage looks like over a 30-year period. In the beginning, the majority of your mortgage payment is going towards interest, not principal. The 21st year is when you can expect to be paying the same amount of principal and interest. From that point onwards, it will only take 9 years to pay off the mortgage. This is fine, except for the fact that most people move house and refinance every 8.6 years. They'll usually upgrade their house and just stay in this mortgage trap. Here are 2 ways to get out of this trap so you can actually pay your mortgage off much faster. If we had a mortgage offset account and we put $100 per week, which is $430 per month, into that offset account, we would shave off 8 years and 3 months, or save $200,000 in interest over that loan term on a $500,000 mortgage. But if we change that mortgage frequency to weekly, $100 per week, we would save almost 11 years and $260,000 in interest off that mortgage. As you can see on the chart, that is a huge difference.
So what this video is all about is an offset account. Now in the US, we don't really have these types of mortgages. There's only 1 or 2 banks that offer them, but it's known as an all-in-one mortgage or a money merge account. And it's where you have an offset account, like a savings account that can offset the interest from the mortgage balance. So the way that you could do this if you have a mortgage in the US is by just creating an offset account yourself, like a savings or money market account. And this is an account that you're going to put extra money in to go towards your mortgage principal. And because the mortgage principal doesn't get paid off automatically, like in an offset account, you would be transferring the money to the mortgage principal, say every month or every couple of months. So the advice is good. The advice is sound. I actually like this better than the normal bi-weekly or extra payment strategy because it has liquidity associated. If you're putting that money in savings instead of putting it directly to principal on the mortgage, it's going to give you access to that money so that if something comes up like an emergency, you're not going to be in a pickle financially. You're going to be able to access that money. So I really do like that, but I think it's very confusing to give this advice, and people in the US that listen to this, they're going to get confused because we don't generally have these all-in-one mortgages or these offset account mortgages like they do in the UK and in Australia. But if you want to implement this, just create a savings money market or a side account and then transfer the money every couple months to the mortgage principal. You will accomplish the exact same thing.
The 2 best pieces of advice I can give you when buying a home is, number 1, don't use all your money when buying a house. Get a down payment assistance loan, a grant, something that allows you to get 100% financing. Hold on to as much of your money as possible. And number 2, get a home warranty. That'll cover all the major systems in your house. So if something goes wrong, you won't find yourself in a situation where you don't have the money to fix it.
So this advice I absolutely agree with. The first part of the advice is all about not using every penny you have to get into a home. Don't go into a home being house poor. So what that really means is ensuring that if you are tight on money, use down payment assistance to cover the down payment so you've got some money left over beyond the closing costs and the prepaid items. You need to have generally a 3 to 6 month emergency fund to be in a good place with your finances. The second piece of the advice is about getting a home warranty. Now, normally I don't recommend this, but I understand the benefit behind it, especially if you're a new homeowner and you haven't owned a home before. Getting that home warranty, it can cost less than $1,000. Sometimes you can even get the seller to throw it in, but it's going to give you so much peace of mind that first year you own the home. All the different appliances and issues that can come up in the home can be covered, or many can be covered through the home warranty plan. So it can just give you a lot of peace of mind in the beginning, and also it can help buffer that emergency fund so that when an issue does come up, the home warranty program can help take care of it. Usually just a very small deductible that you'll have for the home warranty program, and then you're not going to come out of pocket thousands and thousands of dollars for the initial home repair, which could put you in a really, really difficult place financially.
This trick, and it's kind of funny because it makes them lose money, but it can help you save $10,000, $20,000 without doing anything. All you have to do, and it's not going to work for everybody, but all you have to do is ask your mortgage lender if you're buying a house If you already have a house, if you have a mortgage, doesn't matter. If you have a loan, or you're getting a loan, ask your mortgage lender, I would like to pay on auto draft. One word can save you $10,000, $20,000 because you're going to get a lower interest rate by doing auto draft. It's not going to work for everybody, but it's going to work on a lot of loans, and it could save you a lot of money by doing nothing different. There you go. There you go. There's your mortgage real estate tip of the day.
So this tip I don't agree with. He's talking about how, again, one size fits all advice. If you go on auto pay with your mortgage, that you're gonna get a lower interest rate. And I work with hundreds of banks, and there's only a couple that offer that. And generally they're offering that on business purpose or non-conventional type of mortgages. Most of you watching this are probably gonna be taking like a government-backed or a conventional type of loan. So you can ask your lender about that, but most of them are gonna tell you no. You're not going to get a lower rate for going on an auto pay. If you're taking a business purpose loan like DSCR, then there are several banks that do offer a discount. It's generally like 1/8 to 1/4 point on the price of the rate that you're getting. So it's not substantial, but it can be a few hundred to a few $1,000s in closing difference or lowering if you do qualify for this. So it's worth asking, but it's not something I would bet on. I really don't even think it's good advice because most people buying their first home, they're not going to be able to get this lower rate. You're better off trying to improve your credit score, maybe put a different down payment and reconfigure that sort of thing. Change your term of your loan from a 30-year to a 20-year. That's going to have a way bigger impact than just asking to go on auto pay.
Back tax refunds based on how much interest you pay on your mortgage. I know a guy who's going to get back $399,000 and he's going to use those tax refunds to pay off his mortgage 7.5 years early. Let me show you how he did it. The CRA calls this program rental cash jamming. And yes, you need rental income, but it can come from a basement apartment. It doesn't need to come from a rental property. But this is exactly how you use it to turn the mortgage interest on your primary residence into a giant tax deduction. So most people take their rental income and they use it to cover the mortgage payments and other expenses on their rental property. Now that seems logical, but it is a huge mistake. What you should be doing is taking the rental income from the rental property and applying it as a prepayment against the mortgage on your primary residence. This is in addition to the regular mortgage payments you're already making. This creates room on the line of credit that's attached to this property. This line of credit is then used to borrow to make the mortgage payment and cover other expenses on this property. Because you are borrowing for an eligible investment, the interest on this HELOC becomes tax deductible. You are essentially transferring this mortgage over to here as you're paying both of them down. The interest on this HELOC is tax deductible, so you get tax refunds every single year because you're lowering your total taxable income, which includes income from your 9-to-5 job. These income tax refunds are then used to pay down the mortgage on your primary residence even faster. Now, this typically pays off both of these years faster than it would have taken you to pay off your mortgage with its original amortization. This strategy has been successfully used for over 40 years by savvy real estate investors and top accountants. Our client is going to use this to get back $399,000 and pay off his mortgage 7.5 years early. You don't have to be that sophisticated to do it, you just need the right team.
So this strategy is actually one of the first time I've heard it, is all about your rental property, if you own rental property, and being able to write off a lot more against your income from that rental property. So instead of paying the mortgage directly using the rental income, he's saying you should take the rental income, pay your primary mortgage, then use a home equity line of credit in order to pay the mortgage on the rental property. That's going to give you a bunch of extra deductions specifically around the interest from that home equity line of credit, because it's now a business expense being used to pay the mortgage. And while I see this could work, it is financially sound, I would definitely say number one, is it even worth it? You need to look at what is your savings going to be by doing this, because I could see if you have maybe like a $3,000 to $5,000 mortgage, there could be some substantial savings. But on one of my rental properties, the mortgage is only like $1,100 a month. So how much am I going to be able to really save by utilizing this strategy? And is it worth the extra runaround? There's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle you need to put in place to implement it. So I would want to do a deep dive with my accountant, show them this strategy and say, hey, how much am I going to save? Does this make sense for me? And is it going to be sound from a tax code standpoint? Don't take tax advice from TikTok without going to your personal tax advisor, and make sure that it applies to your particular situation.
Hi guys, today I'll be teaching you how to make a 30-year mortgage loan into a 15-year mortgage loan, saving thousands of dollars that the bank does not tell you because they make profit out of you guys. For example, the closing disclosure should look something like this, where you have the estimated total monthly payment. This is what you're going to pay the first of every month, which is the mortgage. And then you're going to look at the principal interest and divide by 6 to pay on the 15th day of every month extra. So 1704 divided by 6 equals 284. So you're going to have to pay 284 extra on the 15th day of every month. So just to recap, you pay your mortgage on the 1st, and then in addition to that, you pay the $284 on the 15th day of every month, and you will decrease your mortgage payments from 30 years to 15 years.
Now, this is just the same old bi-weekly mortgage advice repackaged in a different way by a different creator. So we need to step back and say, should you be using a bi-weekly mortgage payment to pay off your loan? Should you even be paying your mortgage off at all? That's the first question here. The problem with TikTok mortgage advice is that it oversimplifies things. And in the real world, that can be dangerous. Always check with a licensed professional before making financial decisions. And if you want the truth about mortgages, hit subscribe right now. If you're ready for expert guidance, call me directly or click the link in the description to get started. And don't miss my last video where I rank mortgage loans from FHA to DSCR.